How's about a win? How's about some positive news? Welcome back, everybody. Sales for Covfefe coffee surged nearly 8,000%. 8,000% after Chase Bank tried to cancel them. Company says they were canceled for being pro-Trump. Chase reportedly banned Covfefe from using their services, saying their payment processor was used for activities prohibited by their terms of service. Turning a minute away in all this, much more, is Trish Regan. She is the host of the Trish Regan Intel podcast. Hey, Trish, nice to see you. You know, sales have skyrocketed for not just Covfefe coffee, other conservative companies after the left's attempts to cancel them. MyPillow, Goya Foods, Dr. Seuss books, to name a few. Covfefe coffee sales surging nearly 8,000%. You know, that tells me something. That tells me that we, normal folks, far outnumber the cancel culture. What do you say?
What I would say is that a lot of people are trying to voice their opinion, if you would, in these more silent ways, right? Whether it's drinking a certain kind of coffee, whether it's buying a certain children's book, Dr. Seuss, they're trying to effectively, Chris, express their freedom of speech in ways that they can right now, because the reality is, right, people can't actually say what they think. I mean, there was a time just a month or so ago when they were actually shutting down Ron Paul's Facebook page because he was talking about patriotism too much and freedom too much. I guess they never really gave him a reason. That's all I can come up with. But, you know, when you say something like the expression, the state motto from the state that I grew up in, live free or die, and that suddenly takes on all these connotations that it frankly shouldn't. I mean, that should be kind of one of our basic tenets and principles, live free or die. Then you run into this whole other situation. I think that's what you're seeing reflected right now. People are trying to voice their opinion by supporting certain products that they know the establishment doesn't want them to have.
Yep. Speaking of which, Disney Plus restricting access to classic films, Dumbo, Peter Pan, for offensive behavior. Turner Classic TV Network will also examine politically incorrect films like Gone with the Wind and Breakfast at Tiffany's. But the woke mob has no issue glorifying Cardi B's Song of the Year for 2020, WAP. This is what's up is down, what's right is wrong, seems to me, Trish.
Look, I mean, a lot of those movies that they're going after and they're examining right now are movies that I think are kind of important. My Fair Lady is on that list. There's actually 3 Audrey Hepburn movies on that list out of 18. So wow. Turner apparently has it out for Audrey Hepburn. But you think about My Fair Lady, and I remember seeing that play as a kid. I remember watching that movie, and I came away with a sense that that was a very independent woman who was struggling in the time in which she lived. If you remember at the end, she says to Higgins, you know what? I had a lot more freedom when I was a flower girl. Now you've put all these restraints and constrictions around me, and it's much harder. I mean, that to me was an important commentary, Chris, on where women have been, right, historically. And you ought to be able to watch something like that and come away from it with an appreciation for how far women have come. And I think all of these films, you have to basically understand the time in which they were written or they were filmed. And, you know, Peter Pan, that's a great classic. Another play and movie I loved as a kid. And some of the others on there, Aristocats. I was like, wait a second, the Aristocats, what's wrong with the Aristocats? Or Lady and the Tramp. There's a whole slew of them that they're effectively censoring for kids now on Disney Plus.
Yeah, well, you know, 2 things. Left-wingers like to take the joy out of everything because they're miserable folks generally, and they like to make the rest of us that way. And there's also, you know, there's a reason why I believe the left wing doesn't want us to learn history, because they're terribly afraid we're going to learn from it, and they can't have that. Wanted to get your take on this. Today, the government reported that the cost of U.S. consumer goods surging the highest rate in 6 months. Is this inflationary spike driven by left-wing Biden policies, and in particular that spending package they just passed?
Yes, 100%. I mean, look, Biden keeps talking about how we're at war with this virus. The good news is, he and the left don't want to admit it, the good news is we're coming to the end of this war, right? We have not 1, not 2, but 3 vaccines in distribution right now, Chris. And you know what? Our economies are opening back up all over the country, even California. Even Gavin Newsom is getting the message, perhaps because of that recall effort, that he's got to open up Disney World. Speaking of Disney, there in California. So all of our businesses are getting back to normal. Guess what? We don't need 1.9 trillion. I know it's great, right? All these states are getting a windfall. $350 billion they're getting. New York and California, of course, getting the most. And then everybody, who doesn't want $1,400? Most Americans are like, hey, I'll take it, right? So there's a little something in here for everyone, but I see it as a power grab. This is the Biden administration. By the way, they're saying this is just a down payment, right? Effectively trying to grab power with buyouts, right? They're giving people just enough money to get by. Well, you know what this is going to do? Because it's coming effectively near the end of the war with coronavirus, it is going to cause mass inflation in our economy. I'm convinced of it. I mean, you really need to be prepared right now, because you could very well be in a situation, Chris, where that cup of coffee at Starbucks, that latte is not going to run you $5. It's going to run you 30 in a few years.
Wow, good grief. Trish Regan, always appreciate the time and expertise here on the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll talk next week.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.